Alabama's win over Auburn last night at Coleman Coliseum, where I kept waiting for a Ryan Brown tweet or text to me about, it reminds me, Jimmy, of old Legion Field clock that wasn't working. The lights went out last night.
Yep.
Not really totally. They were just locked in the red glow of the pregame, and I didn't even notice on the first bucket they had not come back on. Auburn drains that three, and then all of a sudden there's a stoppage of play, and for 15 minutes they worked every combination they could to get the lights to unlock.
It worked perfectly for me because I was going to Odie's to watch the game before we started trivia, and I had taken the kids to dinner, and so I was going to be a little bit late, and I figured I'd probably miss the first 10 minutes of action, and I was going to listen to Chris Stewart and Brian Pasek on the way over. And hits the shot, then the lights go out, and literally when I pulled into Odie's is when they restarted play. So it worked out perfectly, but if there is an example of what a shithole Coleman Coliseum is, there you go.
Yeah, can't even keep the lights on. I didn't not even think about it. It's been so long since I've thought about Legion Field. I didn't even think about the connection, but you're right. I mean, Alabama, the proud program Alabama could never play a game at Legion Field where they didn't have to stop it for clock malfunction.
What was the old saying? The clock is malfunctioning. We're going to keep the time on the field.
Yeah, it was every single Legion Field game. And I'm like, I don't know how a proud program like Alabama is dealing with a clock that will not work.
It was unbelievable. But they worked hard. They got it back on. Greg Byrne walked and apologized to the officials and then over to the Auburn bench. And after a re-warm-up, they cranked the game back up. And listen, when Auburn comes out and hits that three to start with, and if Alabama had come out of that delay and, blew them out of the arena, I was going to be like, oh, no, this will be a storyline. But then Auburn jumped out early, was it? A double-digit lead out of the extended timeout, and I was like, well, it didn't hurt Auburn. They still started hot.
So I read this on Twitter because I was watching, obviously. Actually, I was in a restaurant for the first half as well. Watched the second half at home. But I was reading on Twitter that Tony Giles, the PA announcer, announced, everybody stay in your seats. We're going to turn the lights completely off for 45 seconds, right?
Totally dark, and, of course, the student section was like,
I'm pouring another drink.
Because all I could think of, Rockstar, is the lights go off for 45 seconds. I don't know why I thought – no, I know why I thought of this because it comes up on the show, and I don't know why. But the lights go off for 45 seconds, and they come back on, and that Bane guy from Batman is standing at midcourt with a microphone.
People of Tuscaloosa.
Oh, Tuscaloosa. You saw what I did to Pittsburgh.
Yeah. He would only need one dynamite stick for Coleman.
Greg Byrne would have been like,
but you've already started the process.
Greg Byrne would have been like, hey, Bane, let us just clear the people out.
Yeah.
We'll help you set the charges.
You can blow really hard.
Oh, Tuscaloosa.
Just let me check the insurance papers real quick to make sure we get this refunded.
I mean, I had no idea why I thought of that, but I was sitting in this restaurant, in a Mexican restaurant, laughing, thinking of the lights coming up and Bane standing at midcourt, and Greg Byrne's like, no, let us just clear everybody out. You can blow this thing up all you want.
Yeah.
All right, that did not happen, though, right?
It did not, but he did make the announcement, and they never totally went all the way out. So whatever click I pictured them going into their garage, whatever Coleman Coliseum garage is, and I don't know if you guys ever do this at the house when something goes wrong. You just start doing fuses on and off on the fuse box. I figured they had somebody in the Coleman.
Did that fix it?
Yeah. Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Here, try this one. That one?
Fix it?
No, that turned off the dishwasher.
You would just think that something like that wouldn't happen. Of course, we had it happen in a Super Bowl. So
that's right.
At the Superdome, which is
and speaking of which,
one rung above Legion Field.
The
Superdome.
last Super Bowl, Jim Harbaugh was involved in.
We'll get to that, but let's stick to Alabama and Auburn first to get some reaction here to what went on last night as we jump into the game. Nate Oats and Alabama with the win last night. 79-75 over, it was two top 10 Ken Pom teams. And to me, it played out that way. I mean, they played a gut-wrenching, hard-fought, physical contest that Alabama wins. Alabama needed that win more than Auburn needed that win. It wasn't a must-win for Alabama, but they needed that win.
I think it was. I mean, once they, going into it, maybe not, but when they were up 14 at half, and then it looked like Auburn was going to come back and steal one in Coleman, and that would have dropped Alabama to, 12-7? That was going to be an awful back-breaking loss, in my opinion. Alabama could have survived, and they still could find their way getting in the NCAA tournament. But for whatever reason, if they were on the bubble and they were left out at the end of the year, I think you would have looked back at that game. Yeah. So they were fortunate. I mean, Auburn, I'll say this. We're about to show Nate Oats. I didn't like the red buttons on the dress shirt.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he outcoached Bruce Pearl.
That's cool
and
colors.
Bruce Pearl for...
Wait. How did he outcoach Bruce Pearl? I mean, they won the game, but...
Yeah,
was
well,
it like a schematic thing?
Alabama doesn't have anybody on the interior that can guard what they've got.
Okay, that's a good point.
And Broome did have 17 attempts, but you look at Jalen Williams, he only had 9 attempts. Cardwell only had 2 attempts in 14 minutes. Pound. And here's the thing. Janai Broome's line looks great, 25, 14, and 5 blocks, but he missed like 3 chippies at the rim.
Yeah. He did, but he could have scored 50, I think. I mean, Alabama had no answer for him. And
I keep pounding. I mean, Auburn decides to shoot 25 threes.
That's what I was going to. Your point is that's almost Alabama's game, shooting that many threes, shooting 25.
And by the way, you're 5 of 25.
And Jay Williams pointed this out a lot on the broadcast, is that Auburn keeps getting baited into Alabama's game. And he was saying the same thing Lance was saying. He's like, Alabama has no answer for Janai Broome. Every single trip, get him the ball. And Williams pointed out, early in the second half, he's like, Broome is sprinting up and down the court, and he's not touching the ball. I do not understand why they're not getting him the ball.
Yeah, so I thought Bruce was outcoached.
Yeah, so you'll get that probably when they go back to Neville later this year in the rematch. They'll look at the tape and they're like, why do we shoot 25 threes in this game? Let's play it a little bit more physical, play it a little bit more inside. Wouldn't surprise me. Maybe you see a little bit of Cardwell and Broome on the court at the same time. Why you don't do that, I don't know. I will ask you this real quick, though. Trey Donaldson, and Bruce admitted this afterwards. Aiden Holloway, I don't think he scored. I don't think he made a shot. But Trey Donaldson was having a good game. And Bruce said afterwards, I probably should have got Trey one more rotation because you're rotating a lot of players in. And when you rotate a lot of players in, sometimes the hot guy's on the bench and the cold guy's in the game. I thought Donaldson was having a good game and should have been in there maybe a little bit more near the end.
Yeah, and here's the thing about Holloway. Look, true freshman, this guy might end up being one of the next great point guards, but he reminds me of Russell Westbrook when he's having a bad game. He will shoot you out of a game. I said this earlier this year, and I said the most captain obvious thing. I was sitting there at a table watching at Odie's last night, and I was like, if Holloway can ever learn how to shoot, he's going to be really good. And the guy looked at me, he was like, it was my problem. I would have been really good at hoops if I could have learned how to shoot too.
Exactly.
It gets us all.
I will tell you this, though. The Grant Nelson transition to Alabama has had mixed reviews with Alabama fans. Last night was his best game, 14 points, 11 rebounds. He was finally physical, and there was a reason why it happened last night. Here's Nate Oats after the contest.
Grant said that Ryland sternly challenged him on the bench during the game. In your course of winning championships over the year, how important is that to the DNA of the team to have the players challenging each other, coaching themselves up on the bench?
The best teams I've ever coached are player coach teams, to be honest with you. I mean, we give them some direction, put them in the right system, but like that stuff, the best teams you have, that stuff comes from the players. So it was great that Ryland stepped up. I mean, he basically told Grant, we need you. Like, we need you to play tough. Like you're good enough. Like, we need you. Step it up. He stepped it up. After the game, Ryland kind of raised his hand. Coach, let me say something. He said, look, Grant, way to step it up. After I chat, we've been talking about this. We need some leadership. We need some guys to play so hard every possession that when somebody else isn't playing hard, they don't fit in. And then you challenge them, and they need to fit in with how hard we play. I thought today was a big step in that. And Ryland's been playing pretty hard on defense. He was really locked in today, both sides of the ball.
And that's where we thought Alabama was going to come up short in this game, that their defense maybe wouldn't match it, the caliber that Auburn brought into this defensively. And it was a physical, crap-talking game. And the incident where it looked like I think it was Wagee Brownie that tried to step on Janai Broome's hand there, and that's obviously a replay there. I mean, it was one of those games that it was a brawl on the court.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just the opposite. Was it the Bama-Missouri game where they were teeing people up just for talking during the game? There was no tees being thrown around
No,
for
and I
talking
thought
last
Sears
night.
was going to get one.
Yeah.
Sears did get the one right for throwing the ball.
I don't think
the
he
ball.
did.
Yeah.
Did he get it
Yeah,
finally?
Yeah, throwing the ball at the
They went and reviewed
after
it
a
because
foul.
that crew spent more time at the monitor than I did. I was at home.
Yeah.
But my God, they went to the monitor for everything.
But I know probably couldn't see it on television at times, but like one time Sears hit a shot, maybe a three, or maybe it was at the bucket. Broom had just gone to the bench, and Broom and Sears are just chatting back and forth intensely when Broom on the bench and Sears standing in front of the bench, and there was a lot of back and forth in that high intensity basketball.
Yeah, and KD Johnson really got into it. Obviously, KD is one of those guys that is going to bring the energy and going to be vocal every single night. But back to Grant Nelson. A couple of things. One of the best hidden gem TV shows of all time, The Killing. Guy named Joel Kinnaman. Whoever watched Suicide Squad, they might know who this actor is. But he played Stephen Holder in The Killing. He looks just like Grant Nelson. Almost a strung-out Seattle crackhead.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, they if you pull side by side Stephen Holder, the cop from The Killing, he looks like Grant Nelson. But Grant Nelson's confidence on the outside shot, it looked like it looked like a guy that is playing horse that hasn't played in like 3 or 4 years. But then you see the athleticism.
Well, they needed him, and Ryland's challenge was they just need some height. They need somebody inside, and they did a rotation of Stevenson, Wagee, and Grant on Janai Broom and Cardwell when they were in the game, and it was, obviously that's Alabama's weak point. They needed Nelson to be a little bit more physical, to play into his body a little bit
now,
more.
the dunk follow might have been the biggest moment of the game.
Yep.
100 by Nelson.
And how you don't block out there.
I know. That's just it's poor effort.
Don't get caught watching the paint dry.
But Nelson's not what he was advertised to be. It's a missing spot for Alabama right now.
He was
Today.
advertised.
Well, Jim, I mean, my God, they're 20 games into the season. I think that's who
This
he
was
is.
supposed to be Dalton Connect.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. It was supposed to be Dalton Connect.
Yeah, Dalton Connect is Nelson's what everybody thought Dalton Connect would be, and Dalton Connect's what everybody thought Nelson would be.
Yeah, but the juicy part of the schedule still ahead, and I think that's my point. Could last night be the turning point for Grant Nelson? Does he find now a little comfort in playing a little bit more physical at this level, what you have to do to be successful at this level? It's a great stat line for him, 14 points and 11 rebounds. Obviously, you can't get a double-double every night, but if you give that kind of stat line every night, that helps this team out defensively a ton.
Yeah, no, I would agree. He's got the length. He's got the athleticism. That reverse was pretty insane, especially you were wondering where his confidence was at that moment in the game. So those were big points from Grant Nelson. Somebody in the chat room was asking me, should that three have counted at the buzzer? There was 0.5 left. I knew when you have a 80, what is Chad Baker-Mazara? 82% from the stripe?
I think that's what he was. Going to the stripe, I think they said 82 or 83 at the time.
He misses two in the final 243. You got a guy like Jalen Williams who's right at 80%, misses one there. I was like, they're going to lose by 4. They're catching 3.5. But they had that one shot with 0.5 left that they put back on the clock. Just easy layup right there. You know you're not going to win the game. They're not going to foul you on a three-point attempt.
The only way, I know, but the only way you can get back in the game is to get fouled on a three-point attempt. So inbounding it for a lay-in does nothing for you. You at least got to try a three.
Yeah, try to catch it, get some contact some way.
Hope an idiot fouls you.
And that was the problem is like he looked for contact, like throwing a leg out and taking that second, I don't know. It went in.
Yeah. No. Well, yeah.
I needed
after the
two more tenths of a second.
I know you did.
The coverage continues on. Oh, here's the comparison you're talking about.
Wow, that is pretty good, Lance.
Yeah, but so, okay, you're looking at obviously a headshot there from Kinnaman and really a headshot from Nelson. In the wild, when Nelson is sweating and playing, and then Kinnaman, when you saw him on the streets of the Killing, I mean, they're spot on.
Yeah, very like figures there. Alabama wins last night. Bruce Pearl, learned a lot about his team last night, even in defeat. He said that afterwards. And, Auburn's quad one games, there haven't been a ton of them, Brown. So they get one last night, and they play really well. And where are they in the KenPom? I would imagine that doesn't change your KenPom point at all because you played to within 4 points on the road against another KenPom top 10 team.
Auburn's 5, Alabama's 8, same thing. So and the net Auburn has slipped a spot below Alabama now in the net. Alabama jumped 2 spots to be in front of Auburn as Auburn slips to 0-3 in quad 1 games. And that continues to be a storyline for Auburn. And they get another chance coming up Saturday on the road at Mississippi State to try to shake that, where I guess they're going to be favored, Lance. I mean, Auburn will be favored in that game, won't they?
In Starkville?
Yeah. Auburn will be favored to win that game. That could be their first quad 1 win. After last night, I think State is right around 40-something, so easily a quad 1 win if you can get that.
Rockstar, give me cut 7. We'll hear from Bruce here, but I want to ask you. We said yesterday three road games in the SEC. What do we think Auburn's record would be?
We all said 2-1.
We all said 2-1.
Yep.
That somewhere they would lose one of these. You did want it to be your rival. Thought maybe it could be Mississippi State if you beat Alabama or the game after that. But here's Bruce. After a loss, LT's been pointing this out every time we've heard from Bruce after every game in this 11-game win streak. He's been sort of trying to, downplay the 11-game win streak, waiting for a coaching moment. Here's Bruce.
You've been challenging this team during the 11-game win streak to stay humble and stay working. What do you learn from this outcome that you'll build on for the rest of the year?
Well, I mean, they're going to run people out of here a lot, period. And they didn't run us out. So I think our guys will go, all right, we can compete on the road, tough environment, against a really, really good team, So this may not be the outcome we wanted, but this is an outcome that tells me something, You got to be pretty good to be able to come in here and not get run out in this environment against us.
That's why I think Saturday is such a big game for them. I know it's just State. I hate to say just State. Chris Jan's a good coach. They've played well. They're 42 in the net.
I agree with you.
I saw this stat floating around last night. I can't independently verify it, but it is a believable stat that Auburn is over their last 10 against top 100 KenPom teams on the road. And that's alarming. At some point, you got to put your foot in the ground if you're Auburn and say, we're not just a good team in Neville Arena. We're a good team anywhere we play. And they they fought back last night. That was not their A game. They missed 9 straight threes to finish the first half. That's how you get down 14. And at some point, they got to put their foot in the ground and say, okay, this is who we are.
That's right.
And I think it's a gut check game for them. It's far from a must win or season on the line. I'm just saying, at State, that's a pretty good team. They got to at some point put their foot in the ground and say, we're not just a good team at Neville Arena.
And we thought that moment was when they demolished Arkansas and Fayetteville.
Yeah, but Arkansas no good.
Arkansas's turned out not to be the team we thought they are.
Yeah, I thought this would be different for Pearl. I said this. It seems like he's waiting to undress this team. They haven't been very good. He's kind of poor-mouthed them. And once they lost a game, I thought he would come out and completely rip them. Look, these guys have been reading the headlines. We've won 11 consecutive games. This was by far the best team we've played.
That's where they were headed at halftime, but his team showed so much guts in the second half.
Well, and I said this, sitting at that table, down 14, I was like, I kind of like the spot Auburn's in. Because now I think Bruce can go pill pain at halftime, watch how they respond coming out. And they came out on a 9-0 run.
Yeah.
And they had every opportunity. But, the thing is, Alabama, the ultimate equalizer is the 3. And if Alabama's going to come out and hit 11 threes, it's hard to beat a team that does that.
And that's their number. That's what they usually hit is 11, right on it. And that's what they hit last night, 11 in that building anyway. So Alabama's now won 12 straight SEC games in Coleman Coliseum. Lights on, lights off, doesn't matter. They're good at Coleman Coliseum. That's Bruce's point there.